Good Monday morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is Monday the 30th of March. We are fast approaching the last day of March, which is tomorrow. So let's see what the market looks like towards the end of March. This video is for educational purpose only. There's no recommendation advice whatsoever intended. All right, let's see what happened in the US market Friday. This is the financial sector illustrated by the ETF. One of the leading ETFs, massive sell-off on the financials, and it is pushing much lower here. And it seems like there's someone talking about, oh, it looks like the financial crisis back in 2006, 7, 8, and 9. But let's see, we're not really there yet, but it really is that the financial sector is being sold off. We could see a little bit of a bounce today, maybe, but we are in a strong bearish trend. Other sectors that are being beaten at the moment, we have the tech sector here. Also, massive sell-off Friday. And go in and look at the, if you are signed up Substack, you can see my walkthrough of, I think, 10 or 12 of the biggest names in tech from a technical point of view. It's not out on other channels just yet, but it's out on Substack. So if you're not signed up to Substack, my Substack account, Kramer's Corner, also called there, then check it out. Everything will be released and published on Kramer's Corner the first, and maybe later on YouTube. Another one that is really badly hit is the industrials, as we can see here, just above support here at 159 area. The healthcare sector, as we can see here, also badly hit. So, but it's all around more or less. The ones that are doing fairly okay is still the agribusiness. Agribusiness companies above the cloud here, still holding on a little bit after this strong bounce. We have the of course the oil sector also pushed higher. Friday is really stretched now, but could continue higher. But look at this, we are up above 80 now on the RSI, so very overbought, but there's no divergence indicating we could see higher levels. And another one that I want to point your attention to, maybe the retail sector found some support here at the moving averages that are virtually flat, the 200 there and 100 coming up there. So maybe the retail business, and that's the basic goods that everyone needs, is the staples. So also fairly positive, and the oil sector, but as you can see, rest of them are really under pressure. Moving on to the overall market, and Nasdaq 100 Friday got a massive sell-off there, almost 2% on the Nasdaq 100. Support at 22,960, which is also just around the 138.2 projection of this double top like scenario there. We can see where it goes back to. It goes back to these levels here, back from last year. Pre-market, it is bouncing a little bit. Let's see if it can continue to bounce, but we are in a bearish trend and we are in negative sentiment, so there is some risk lower still. And as you can see, the let's look at it there. There's potential down below 23,000, but we are posing just above 23,000 for now. The S&P 500 just above support there at 6,343. But we are in a bearish trend, no divergence on the RSI, indicating we could see lower levels. And we have here the future that is touching, that touched this morning the support there at 6,362. So a little bit bounce coming in there, but it really needs to get back above the 200 moving average and these levels up here to establish a bullish trend, and it's not really in the cards at the moment. The Dow Jones the future dipped below the support there at 45,387, and seems to maybe find some bits here early morning. So let's see how long that will last. The Russell 2000 index ETF just above the 200 moving average there, but also is in a bearish trend. In Asia this morning, we saw the Hang Seng index bouncing a bit here, and but compared to Friday, we're still lower, but strong support here, 24,370. If it takes out that once again, well then the selling pressure will come back strongly. Nikkei future also bounced, maybe doing a little bit of a double bottom here, but let's see. It's still 50,250, a key support that should be observed, but also under a lot of pressure. Europe took a beating Friday. It also did it the other day, and it's been doing that for quite a while now, for the better part of March actually. But let's see what's going on here. Just pre-market, it hasn't just opened yet, but we'll see buyers are coming in, lifting it here, as illustrated by the CFD/ETF. So support there, 5,413 is bouncing again. We dipped below here about a week ago, but now we are bouncing again. So let's see what it can do today. There it is finding some buyers, but let's see how long that lasts. DAX index also being beaten Friday, but here pre-market also bouncing a little bit. Just above this gap area here, that is key. It could take it out. If it takes out the lows today, and that's how you know it. So if you're trading, and this is not an advice or anything or recommendation that I'm doing now, it's just to illustrate. So let's say if okay, I think I will buy the index, and then you will have a stop. That would be your lows today. The low today will be your stop. So if it turns around, takes out that, well, then it's likely to continue lower. On the FX market, there's been again fairly muted reaction to all this, strangely enough, but it has. We have euro dollar this morning just above the minor support there at 114.80. That is, if it takes out that to the downside, then expect 114 to be also tested strongly, and most likely also be taken out, and then we could see much lower levels. But for now, it is still holding on, and we are seeing a little bit of a bounce. And if you're a very short-term trader on FX, you can put in Fibonacci there, then you have some levels to look at. It could bounce back up to 115.80. Sterling dollar just above support there at 132.20. If it takes out that, well, then expect selling pressure lower towards 131. I actually think if it takes out the lows today, then it will turn sour, and then it's or turn lower, and then we are likely to also test the 131.60 and possibly lower in this region here. And there is strong support here down around 130, and I'm not convinced it won't do that here in the coming weeks. Euro sterling that is trying to call higher, but then we have the 55 giving a little bit of half time there, the 200 up here, and then we have 100 coming up there. So 50% here just below the upper part of the cloud, and the 200 moving average there at 86.90, but we could spike up to the 61.8 retracement there at 87.13 area. But also a negative sentiment, still in a bearish trend, but it's trying to reverse that. The dollar yen, let's just resize a little bit here. So it's dancing around the peaks there, just around 160. Now we are back below again, but we are in a bullish trend, and I think we'll see it pushing higher in the coming days. However, look at this. We actually did get a divergence here on the other side. That was a little bit strange, but that's where we are at the moment. But if it breaks back above, or breaks above the falling trend line there, then I think we will see the higher levels pushing in, and then there's room up to around 161.70 and 162 plus. Euro yen, well, still it is this 184.75.80 resistance here. It can't really break it. It's still negative sentiment. It needs to close back about 60 threshold for a further upside. We are in above the cloud, above the 55 moving average. Aussie yen trading around just above the 55 moving average here. Key support 109.35. If it takes out that, well, then we could see it's dropping back down to the 107.5 area where we have some support. We also have the 100 moving average coming up, giving some support. And look out for what's happening here with the RSI 40 threshold. Will it actually bounce off or close below? That will be key towards the next few days. Sterling yen, well, this 213.30 resistance was too hard to crack, at least at first. Well, it wasn't the first 1, 2, 3, 4 times it has tried. Now testing this rising trend line. I think we could see a setback down to test the upper part of the cloud area here, and the support here at 210.80, 210.75. So that's the area to keep an eye on. If it takes out that, well, then we could see a sell-off lower, and if that plays out that, well, then I will add a Fibonacci to it and say, all right, where can it set back to? You can see the 38.2 adjust around these levels there, these low levels and the support. Well, then I think we could see a sell-off all the way down to the 786 retracement there at 208.50. So keep an eye on that. Unless it can really break above here, then we're looking at 215. Moving on to Aussie dollar, bouncing around the lower part of the cloud there at 68.65 at the moment. Will it bounce back or will it continue lower? Well, the RSI is actually telling us it will push lower, but that's not a guarantee that it will. If it doesn't close below the cloud area, well, we are in a bearish trend though now, and there is potential down to 67.60, possibly lower, because this is not the strongest support. So a little bit in limbo here now. We have the 100 moving average coming up, but I think the downside pressure will continue. So I'm not quite confident it will bounce back. However, if it moves back above 69.45, well, then it could re-establish or establish a bullish trend and a bounce to a higher level. So a little bit of knife edge at the moment. So keep an eye on that if you're trading Aussie dollar. Dollar Canada opened a little bit lower this morning here, but it's trading more or less around where it closed Friday. And I think we will still see higher levels towards the peak here at 139.30. If it takes out that level, well, then there's potential higher towards 141. It will take some time if it gets up there, but it seems like that's where we have a positive sentiment. No divergence on the RSI is indicated, but we can see here on the weekly, we are back in the cloud. Still negative sentiment, needs to close above 60 threshold. We are above the 100 moving average, but we see the 50 weekly moving average dragging down on it there. And the sterling Canada, well, it's a weird one here this morning, but I think that maybe it's just a misprint early in a very liquid market. So we are basically where we left off Friday. It's again, as in Canada, it's very difficult pair or cross to trade. However, if it takes out the lows from this morning, then expect a push down to 182. Otherwise, it could continue bouncing higher. We are in a slightly uptrend. It's not a pair I would recommend trading because it's just so volatile and it's so massive gaps. So liquidity is not that big. On the Swiss franc front, also opening lower this morning, but it seems like it's some weird prints there pre-market, so maybe they should be just disregard them. However, if they're being taken out to the downside, then we are likely to turn around, but I think we'll see it pushing higher to 92, 15, 20 area where we have the 100 moving average coming down there. Kind of putting a lid on it. If it can get back above that, well, then there's potential higher towards 93. We are in a positive sentiment, bullish trend, so it's not unlikely that we will push higher. It is actually in the cards. The dollar Swiss trading in a rising channel-like pattern, dipped below here this morning, but it seems like there's been quite a lot of volatility also there, and in a very thin market. So please be aware of that. We have the low this morning at 78.45. If it takes that out, then well, downtrend could be resumed, but we are in a bullish trend towards the 80.5 level there. That I think we will see it being reached support for the uptrend at the positive RSI. The dollar index. Open a little bit higher this morning, setting back now here. Key resistance is still up here in the 100 spot 35 region. That should be observed. We could see a little bit of a setback, and this maybe we should remove this now because it's dipped below it, so it's a little bit obsolete now. But just keep an eye on it. I think we could set back a little bit, but let's see if it will have a go at it. Let's move on to metals that are really frustrating in terms of direction here lately, but we are in a bearish trend. There's a little bit divergence here on the RSI, and we have bounced here Friday and also continue to bounce this morning. So what I will do, I will say that, well, if it takes out the lows right there at the 50% of this bounce there, if it takes out 43.50, well, then expect sell-off to really come back with a renewed power and energy, and we could see it pushing lower here towards 4,000. But if it can take out 46.03 here, well, then there's potential up to 48.40. So also a little bit in a limbo here, in a range bound, I would say. So that's what I would keep my eyes on. The silver, more or less the same picture here, taking a little bit of a breather, but if it takes out the lows here, let me just show you this level there at 66.69, then I think we will see lower levels towards the 55 level, below 60 at least. The platinum, well, just trading sideways here, 1966 and 1733. We have copper also, after bouncing somewhat, can it get back above the 100 moving average and above 560? Well, maybe then it can establish a bullish trend short term, but it could be short-lived up to around 580 area. But if it takes out the lows from today, then downtrend is to continuing. The oil market opened this week with higher, a little bit higher levels, not higher than there, of course, but above the resistance there at 102.42, but it's now selling off a little bit. There are some rumors in the markets that someone has taken a huge short position in the oil market. So let's see if there's something that someone that knows something. I don't know about that. Anyway, we could see a little bit of a setback, maybe down to 96 area, possibly lower, but we are in a bullish trend. But if it needs to take out the peak from today, 103.38, well, then we are looking for these previous peaks there, just around 120. Brent Crude Oil, well, it's almost it's up there, so that is behaving a little bit different. You can see buyers are still in control here. However, we do have some divergence on the RSI, so a little bit stressed. However, if it takes out these two peaks there, well, then we are looking much lower, much higher towards 128, 133. And I actually have indicators saying even higher numbers towards 160. I think I did show it to you last week in the in a special update there. The nat gas, well, has opened here in Europe. European nat gas still in this bouncing mode here, could push higher. Let's see if we'll do that. Unless it takes out 48.40 down here, well, then we have a bearish trend. The US nat gas, just boring, really not doing anything, and they are not affected by what's going on in the Middle East. On the interest rate side, and US 10-year Treasury yield spiked almost. It didn't get all the way up to 450, but we were at 448, and now setting back. We have what looks like a bit of a bearish engulfing building up here. But let's see if that's also the case. But what I will do, regardless, I'll say, okay, the last leg up there, I will actually draw it from the entire one, and that just to illustrate it. So if it slides back below, and let me just draw a horizontal line right there. If it takes out that 430 level, well, then there's potential lower. We can also add a Fibonacci to just the last leg up, either from yes, there, or maybe even from that last leg up there, and then you have some levels there. It just depends how your trading style, how short term you are. So there are no straight rules, but I try when I add Fibonacci that it should be a more clean uptrend. It hasn't been that clean here really, but top and reversal in play. We have divergence here on the RSI, as we can see. If I draw a trend line here, you can see it's declining. So maybe in a little bit of exhaustion mode here as short term. Moving on to the European yields. Here we have the EU10 setting back a little bit here this morning after spiking to 313 Friday. Just touch it. So if it takes out the peak from Friday, then expect a move up towards 318, 320. But setting back a little bit here this morning, but I think we are in a bullish trend. However, also stretch, you can see the RSI declining there, so a little bit stressed in its trend. We have the UK 10, couldn't get above the 511, 512 here, which is key, and they're probably happy about that in UK that it didn't, and now setting back here, but that will be the key resistance to the downside around 478. The Japanese 10 just peaked up, opened above the 238 here this morning, but sitting back a little bit. But it was actually a new high there at 2 or just micro pip below 239. Maybe a little bit of correction, but I still think we will see it higher in the coming days and weeks. On the cryptocurrency side, well, actually we got a move below the support there, below the rising trend line. So we have actually established short-term a bearish trend, lower low, lower high, and a lower low. So what will it do? Can it push back above the rising trend line there, or will it continue lower? If it takes out the lows there from yesterday at what is it, at 64,938, then we could be looking at 60,000 levels again. Ethereum, more or less the same picture, below the rising trend line, has established a bearish trend, lower low, lower high, and lower low. Will turn around? It seems like it at the moment, but if it takes out the lows from yesterday, then expect to push down to 1740. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and keep charting out there, and be careful.